Don't miss our straight talk review on Necromunda.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. It is crazy retro time. Retro, but nowtro, so to speak. This is the new Necromunda box set. I'm sure you've seen it already all over the place. Comes out this holiday weekend from Games Workshop, $125 US retail for this box here. It comes with all sorts of awesome stuff here, but a lot of people are wondering, hey, you know, I've seen people playing it. I've seen the miniatures, they look great. I want to use them for this, I want to use them for that, I want to play the game. But you know, is it worth it? Like what's going on? What's the real deal take on this new box set here? And we're gonna break it down. We're gonna tell you what we think and kind of get to the bottom of things here. Of course, there is already a ton of expansions coming out. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on the miniatures in here because that is gonna be a separate video where we take a closer look at those that have just come out as their own separate box sets. There's actually new tactics cards for both of the gangs there too. We're going to talk about that and the Gang Wars expansion book, 64-page expansion book there. So we're going to focus more on what comes in here and the value, and then give you our ideas for, you know, where this may go, because the sky is pretty much the limit. We already know there's a ton more gangs that are in Necromunda. Now, once you get your box set open, you're going to notice there's a lot of stuff going on in here, and I have to admit, I think this is a great precedent from Games Workshop on putting out an expansion that has both value for the parts that come in it, but also for the rules themselves. So what we're going to see here is, you know, money breakdown wise, both of these gangs retail for $40 each. So these are pretty cool. That's $80 retail each. Remember, the retail of this box is $125. Then the two separate terrain packs are actually $35 each. However, each of those terrain packs comes with two separate sprues, unfortunately. So you don't get a complete terrain pack in this set. You get one sprue or one component sprue of each of those. So I guess you could say that's kind of one, maybe one overall. Scores counts as one, I guess. So $35, so you're up to, you know, $115 value. Then you pull out your old templates here, and if you happen to have thrown yours away, well, hey, you got some new that's like $8 in the bank right there. So now we're climbing that train. We're getting up. I think we're up around, let's see, 80 plus 35, so 115. We're up around 120-ish. So then I guess, theoretically, I mean, you figure you get the bases here, the new Chinese cast, small, both 32mm and 25mm bases here. Those would come with the set, so we can't give any more value on that. And then you figure, well, the rule book's probably worth something. So overall, is it worth the money that you're spending on the box for $125? Do you get your value? You do get your value. It's obvious, you get your value. But the problem is that Games Workshop has that chip in our brains to expect a deal on these box sets. We saw it with Calth, we saw it with Prospero, we see it with pretty much everything that comes out. So this is going to be an interesting pivot for them to capitalize on, you know, company-wise and focus-wise. Like, can they convince the consumer, the people watching this, you know, and myself, that, hey, now you're not always going to get value out of these boxes. You're going to at least get your value, but you might not get a bonus or like a bundle type value out of these boxes. Sometimes the rules, getting the rules themselves and everything you need to play is a value in and of itself. And that's an interesting way, or an interesting kind of turn or direction for Games Workshop to take on some of these box sets. Because traditionally for the last three, including this year, we have, Black Fridays, we have seen a bundle release. Now this is the first one consecutively to not have that. So remember Calth, then Prospero, and now we have Necromunda, which technically is not a bundle deal. Now, overall, the new set, like I just showed you, you're going to get your two gangs, of course, which is super easy. 104-page rulebook, the 9 double-sided tiles, which I'm about to show you here in a second, with one, accessory sprue or accessory punch out with all sorts of things that we're going to talk about as well. Then you also get your plastic barricades, your loot crates, deck of 70 game cards, which aren't the same as the expansion cards that you can buy separately. We'll talk about those in a separate video. range ruler, dice, and of course the miniatures themselves that we already mentioned. Now here is how they go together, and each miniature for the most part can make a separate, can make two different versions of it with a little switching out of parts, which you can kind of see right here. We're not really going to get into that because, like I said, that's going to be for a separate video where we go over the miniatures themselves, so we're just gonna put that aside. Now what I do like about this thick heavy cardstock is that Games Workshop uses it to protect the books and all the accessories and things underneath here from the damaging sprues getting stacked and bustling around and jumping around inside the box and damaging the books. You don't want a book that's all dented up and stuff, So good on Games Workshop for giving us that great, good feeling. The non-feel badsies coming out of the box here. So we're gonna grab all this stuff out of here and jump right into it. So one of the reasons it's a good idea to get the box is so that you get the 9 awesome game tile cards, and they're all sorts of different styles and laid out. You can see in the camera, these have a very matte finish, but they're very well detailed and very rich in depth, unlike the kind of UV glossed boards we've seen in the past. I like this idea. They lay flat, they combine very well. They also remind me of the Zone Mortalis boards from Forge World as well. So these represent bulkhead, these represent open ground, kind of. But there's a bunch of them. We'll just kind of flip through them real quick, talk about it conversationally, like how cool they look. There's some collapse sections, and there's a lot of different ways you can assemble these. And I think it's pretty neat how they did it and how they kind of took that approach to these right here. And then the top piece is all of the different accessories and markers and things that you're going to need. You've got ready markers, blaze markers, flesh wound markers. There's broken markers on the back, out of ammo markers. Then you've got your other kind of wound markers right there. Here is going to be your pitfall craters. Then you've got your ductways, which can basically cut through a bulkhead in game, which are pretty neat. Your arc of visibility, or your vision arcs right here. And that's pretty much everything you get accessory wise and game board wise. Next up is the rule book itself. Now this is 130 page, I believe it was, rule set. 103. Got juxtaposed my numbers right there. It's very well laid out. It's a very good quality book, something on par with the softcover codex books that we saw last edition from 7th edition Warhammer 40k, I suppose. I don't know why I assumed this was 8th edition 40k, because it's not. This is Necromunda. This is a completely separate game. But it's going to have all sorts of great content in here, and of course the rules that you need to play. Now right off the bat, just a quick breakdown. You've got the rules, your basic rules, your advanced rules. So once you get some of these under your belt, you can graduate up to the advanced rules using the templates and things like that. The armory, founding a game, that customizing your House Goliath or House Escher. And then your Underhive battle section, which is actually going to show you how to lay out each of those tiles that we just showed you and form your battles in and of itself. And then the first 30 pages is a bunch of fluff and different things that you can kind of read on at your leisure. Then it gets into your rules and everything, and it's, from what I see, it's pretty neat. It's got some Blood Bowl mechanics in here, which is very cool to see that the Specialist Games folks are keeping it real with some of that. You got the old scatter dice, you got the injury dice, the firepower dice, and your normal D6 dice right there. We didn't really go over those. There's the rules, the little plastic rule. We're really talking about vision arcs, all the shooting and all the rules and stuff you need. Advanced rules section. Now you can check out a ton of different other YouTube channels that will explain how to play the game and such like that. We're just showing you the quality of the components and giving you the straight talk and our opinion on the book itself, or the box set itself, I guess. And then back here, now this differs from the Gang War book, and I'm not sure that some of the folks, the early reviewers, had the opportunity to get this. But this section is actually different from what comes in the Gang War section. And for that matter, the cards that we're going to look at next are also different. They're going to actually add to and supplement the cards that come in this book and not necessarily be something new. And then it gets to the scenarios, and like I said, how it's all laid out and such, and using the bulkhead pieces and things like that. Oh, and one other quick thing is there is a quick reference little card that comes with this. There's two different ones, one for each of the players right there, so you can kind of work your way through the rules and such as you start to become more familiar with how everything works. Then we've got the next section, which would be the tactics cards here. And there's a ton of different tactics. There's 42 profile cards, first off, which are going to give you 10 each of the Escher gang and the House Goliath gang. So having this is the stuff that I've always dreamed of, having this for Warhammer 40K, being able to put these down, be like, all right, cool, I'm taking a Space Marine tactical squad, let me check all the stats and all the war gear, and you put it down and you just have quick reference. You don't have to flip through all of the books. But I think we can all see that when the emphasis is on the game itself and not actually selling a ton of extra components like it is with 40K, like selling all these books, and now we've got chapter approved coming out with that price tag of $40 that hasn't quite gone unnoticed by a lot of folks, that we can kind of probably never expect something like this for Warhammer 40K, unfortunately. Even though it is my dream just to make gameplay so much easier, and people like me, I'd still buy the books, but this would just be a supplement to my books. But I could see where Games Workshop would be apprehensive, of course, because some folks would only ever buy these and not the books themselves. It is a business, they do need to sell things. I do recognize and respect that. However, sometimes you have to be cognizant of what people want when on a broader scale, maybe not as much in this hobby because we seem to always buy the stuff regardless. So here's your 10 Goliath tactics cards, your 10 Escher tactics cards, and then your generic stack of gang tactics cards as well. Now and you can tell by the symbols right here which warband they go with. There are extra cards that aren't in here that come in the small expansion packs as well. So these are meant to be a supplement to the game and not a replacement for the cards that came in this game itself. And there is some blank gang cards, so you can create your own gang members in the section in the back. And then of course they give you a little bit more in the Gang Wars books themselves, or the Gang War book, but I'm sure that's just the first of many because it only contains 2 of the gangs that we haven't seen yet. So I'm sure they will come out with extra expansion. So bringing it all home, you get your 2 bulkhead sections right here, or 1 bulkhead section to play with, 1 objectives section right here. Now these I like. You got these little peg systems that lock in and form the feet for these bad boys right here, so they can kind of not fall over on the tabletop. I like the homage of the old Necromunda plastic pieces that you could build these tremendous spires, 3-dimensional spires out of cardstock by locking them into these plastic pieces here. These formed the corners in the old game, at least. So that's really neat to see as well. But bringing it forward, there is a non-3-dimensional component to this game that really may turn off some folks, and they've already been talking about it on the internet. I don't have a preference myself, probably because I didn't play Necromunda but once or twice back in the old days. So I'm kind of undivided on that one. But remember, you are only getting 1 of each of the sprues here that normally come in the separate expansion packs for these right here. So you're going to get 1 frame with the bulkhead doors, and then you get this other sprue here with the loot crates, the lids, the little sewer cover with a little beast kind of thing, and all sorts of different cool manhole covers, command terminals, the little gang kind of thing right here. I don't even know, booby traps, all sorts of different things. These are the lids for the crates. So very cool terrain in and of itself that you could kind of use for anything outside of the game as well, but also for this game. And then last but certainly not least, the 2 sprues of gangers that are exactly identical. And remember, there are specific ways that you can put together each model, so just don't go pulling all the parts off and glue them together. Make sure you start building with a purpose here, and we'll explore all of the individual kits in a separate video in more and more detail. So that is about it for this one. Thanks for hanging in there with us with our little straight talk session on the new Necromunda Underhive box set. Overall, I think it's an interesting direction for Games Workshop. I can't wait to see what they come out with next and how gamers like you respond to this sort of new release from Games Workshop, because remember, there's a lot more games out there. Mordheim, we've seen Blood Bowl already, obviously a huge hit, but stuff like Mordheim, also Battlefleet Gothic. So the sky is pretty much the limit, depending on hopefully how well this game does for Games Workshop. Now, if you like these sort of unboxing and straight talk type videos, make sure you subscribe to us. Turn on notifications, click the little bell icon in the top right or the bottom right corner to be the very first to like and comment on all of our videos. And head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the 8th edition Warhammer 40k battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.